All right, I want to just quickly say thank you to everyone for joining us today, and welcome to the California Hydrogen Hub Community Briefing. My name is Emmanuel Taylor, and I will be your facilitator for today. I'm joined today by colleagues from OCED within the Department of Energy, as well as the team from ARCHES, the Hydrogen Hub in California. Those folks are all going to introduce themselves in a bit. Before we jump in, I just want to highlight some of the features of this broadcast that may be helpful to you. You can turn on live captions by clicking on the Show Captions button in your control panel located at the bottom of the screen. To turn on Spanish interpretation, please click the English button in your control panel. Zoom recently updated, so that button may say Interpretation or it may say English. Today's webinar is going to be recorded, and we will be publishing it and the slides on OCED's website within the coming days. Next slide, please. And so warm welcome to everyone. Really appreciate you all taking the time to be with us today for this important conversation. Next slide. As many of you are aware, the Department of Energy's Office of Clean Energy Demonstrations, or OCED, announced the selection of 7 regional clean hydrogen hubs back in October of 2023 and began negotiations. After months of negotiations, on July 17th, OCED awarded the California Hydrogen Hub, led by the Alliance for Renewable Clean Hydrogen Energy Systems, or ARCHES, with $30 million of federal funding to begin phase 1 of their project plan. DOE and ARCHES are here today to provide an update on the California Hydrogen Hub, speak to the project information, and lay out opportunities to help shape the future of clean energy developments in your region. Today, you will all have an opportunity to engage with DOE and with the partners that are involved in the hydrogen hubs during the Q&A at the end of this session. Next slide, please. And again, my name is Emmanuel Taylor. I am not a member of the team at OCED or ARCHES or any of the hydrogen hubs. I am an independent facilitator here to help to represent this conversation and to make sure that it's fair and balanced and everybody has an equal opportunity to participate. We're going to have some introductions from members of the team, both at ARCHES and at OCED. So we'll start with Dale and allow everyone just to turn your cameras on briefly, unmute, and provide a quick intro.
Thank you, Emmanuel. My name is Dale Fairclough. I'm project manager for OCED for the ARCHES Hydrogen Hub, and I'm glad to be on with everyone today.
Hi there. Thank you all so much for joining us. I'm Susie Baker. I'm the engagement lead for the Hydrogen Hubs program, and I will hand it to Angelina.
Hi, everyone. Thank you as well for joining the webinar. We're very happy to be here with you, and I am the ARCHES CEO. Handing it over to Joy.
Thank you very much. My name is Joy Langford, and I'm the ARCHES Community Engagement Officer. Glad to be here.
All right. Thanks so much. Appreciate all of you and look forward to hearing more from each of you as we move through our agenda. Next slide, please. I do want to, just want to quickly talk through our agenda for the meeting. So first, you're going to hear an overview of OCED's project management oversight, which includes information on the California Hydrogen Hub and its phase 1 activities. Then we're going to hear a bit about the next steps and how to get involved. We're then going to pass it on to the ARCHES team. They're going to give an overview of their hub with updated and more specific information. And then afterwards, we're going to go into a Q&A session. I'm going to moderate that session. I will just quickly remind folks that there's a Q&A button located on your control panel. If you have questions at any point in time, please feel free to submit your questions via text using the Q&A module. You can also upvote questions from others if you think that they are important questions that we should prioritize in the discussion. So no need to hold your questions until the end. If you have any questions, just feel free to type them in as they come up. And with that, I'm going to pass things back over to Dale, who you heard from, and he will begin presentation from OCED's perspective. Thank you, Dale.
Thanks again, Emmanuel. So OCED's project management oversight overview. OCED is a new office at the DOE created 2.5 years ago. Congress provided funding through the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law and Inflation Reduction Act to help fund clean energy demonstration projects, including the hydrogen hubs. So typically, OSED funds up to 50% of the costs for a given project in order to deliver clean energy technology demonstration projects at scale in partnership with the private sector to accelerate deployment, market adoption, and the equitable transition to a decarbonized energy system. So right in our mission and core to our office's work is an emphasis on equity. We know we cannot get to a decarbonized energy system without working closely with the involved communities, and that is why it's critical we hear your questions and concerns. We want to invest in potential projects in the safest and most transparent way possible. Community input not only shapes the specific projects OSED funds, but it also shapes our comprehensive approach to building out the clean energy industry. So your community can be part of this. Next slide, please. Okay, so I actually went through the mission here. We can continue forward to the next slide. So OSED scope. This slide captures the OSED portfolio at a high level. We're investing more than $25 billion in a variety of pathways and technologies central to achieving our clean energy future. For example, in addition to the Hydrogen Hubs program that we are discussing with you today, our portfolio includes investments in long-duration energy storage and carbon management, as well as funding for clean energy projects in rural and remote areas and on current and former mine land. The Bipartisan Infrastructure Law provided DOE with $8 billion in funding to develop regional hydrogen hubs to accelerate the commercial scale deployment of low-cost, clean hydrogen to further decarbonize the US economy. So of that, we allocated up to $1 billion for a demand-side initiative to ensure that both producers and end users in the hydrogen hubs have the market certainty they need during the early years of production to unlock critical private investment. So the rest goes directly to funding the 7 selected hubs that OSED announced. So this is the country's first ever network of clean hydrogen infrastructure, supported by a $7 billion investment from the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law. So the 7 selected hydrogen hubs will catalyze more than $40 billion in private investment and create tens of thousands of good-paying jobs, bringing the total public and private investment in hydrogen hubs to nearly $50 billion. Next slide, please. So the selected regional clean hydrogen hubs. So I know you're here to learn more about the California Regional Hydrogen Hub, but it's helpful to show the landscape of hydrogen hub selectees and remind folks that a big goal of these hubs is to catalyze a national network of clean hydrogen infrastructure. Hydrogen hubs are networks of institutions, businesses, and governments working together to reduce pollution and carbon emissions. So this map shows an overview of the 7 selected regional clean hydrogen hub projects spanning from coast to coast. The selections were diverse in terms of their hydrogen feedstock, end use, the total miles, and state spanned, and the size of the various projects as well. The dots on the map show where hydrogen production facilities could be located. Next slide, please. So California Hydrogen Hub overview, ARCHES. So here are a couple of overall statistics on the California Hydrogen Hub. The transformative $1.2 billion federal investment will be matched by recipients to leverage billions of dollars to strengthen local economies, create and maintain tens of thousands of high-quality jobs, and slash harmful greenhouse gas emissions that jeopardize public health and ecosystems. The California Hub includes hydrogen production from renewable energy and biogenic sources, and its multiple end uses, but are not limited to heavy-duty vehicles, as well as the power sector. So it will accelerate the adoption of hydrogen technologies around freight, the movement of goods, and deploying 3 large ports with 200 plus pieces of cargo handling equipment, 5,000 plus fuel cell electric trucks, over 1,000 fuel cell electric buses, 1 marine vessel, turbines and stationary fuel cells for power generation. The expansion of hydrogen fuel cell vehicles and heavy-duty transportation will not only drive improvements in air quality along high-pollution interstate transportation corridors, but it will facilitate greater connectivity and expansion of a clean West Coast freight network that links to the Pacific Northwest Hydrogen Hub. The hub is also dedicated to ensuring the benefits of these hydrogen hubs flow directly to impacted communities, creating 200,000 new quality jobs and reducing greenhouse gas emissions by 2 million metric tons per year. Next slide, please. So project management oversight overview. So this slide details OSED's robust project management oversight, and this is done through a phased approach with a go, no go point before each phase. This means that a project must meet the agreed upon deliverables for that phase before they can unlock the next chunk of funding. This ensures that taxpayer dollars are properly managed. So I want to point out that the California Hydrogen Hub is currently at the start of phase 1, and only a portion of the funding goes out in phase 1. Then there's phase 2 funding, and actually most of the money is deployed in phase 3, which is the construction phase. So with that, I'll hand it over to Susie to cover the upcoming slides. Thank you.
Thanks, Dale. Hopefully everybody can hear me okay. So sorry, is this our, there we go. So just in terms of prioritizing community benefits and OSED projects, many of you have probably already been with us through listening sessions and briefings, so hang with me if this is old news, but we want to run through it again just in case there are any newcomers to the conversation. So all of OSED's programs, including, of course, the hydrogen hubs, are required to have community benefit commitments, or CBCs as we're calling them. These have 4 interdependent parts. First, community and labor engagement, which seeks to involve those impacted in decisions that affect them and create projects responsive to the needs of communities and workers on the ground. Second, diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility, also known as DEIA, which seeks to help build a clean energy economy that's reflective of all Americans and ensures equitable access to wealth building opportunities. Third, of course, is investing in the American workforce. The focus of this is to help build the skilled long-term workforce needed to power the energy transition. So to create quality family-sustaining jobs with the free and fair choice to join a union. And finally, the Justice 40 initiative, which has the goal of maximizing project benefits and minimizing harms. So Justice 40 creates a goal that 40% of overall benefits from certain federal initiatives, including this one, flow to disadvantaged communities. So extremely cool, first of a kind program that this hub is a part of. Each hub was required to develop a community benefits plan as a part of its initial proposal to help ensure that local communities and workers are engaged in these projects from the outset and receive concrete benefits. And OSED will provide robust project management oversight of the plan implementation throughout the project lifecycle, as well as engagement support. Next slide. So just to give you a sense of the types of things we're looking for in terms of these community benefit plans or community benefit commitments, now that we're in phase one, we're switching from plan to commitment. You know, these are requirements for the hubs and all OSED programs that are tailored to reflect the impacts of specific technologies, the types of applicants, and any potential statutory or legal requirements. Nonetheless, strong community benefit commitments will have certain characteristics. So awardees need to go to beyond a vision or assessment to include actionable goals, outcomes, and implementation steps supported by adequate resources like money, people, and time. The awardee must include mechanisms for accountability and transparency with impacted communities and propose clear metrics to measure success. These proposed actions need to align with the needs and priorities of impacted communities. And the commitments must demonstrate how the project design will minimize and mitigate negative impacts and harm, especially with overburdened communities who are already dealing with legacy issues and harms. They must have a plan for creating quality jobs, equitable access, and investing in the workforce. I want to reiterate that the CBP submitted an application. They have changed significantly through the selection and negotiation process. And these are sort of living documents that are evolving in response to community and worker feedback over time. I also want to emphasize that OSED's role here is oversight of the community benefit commitments, and we may help facilitate certain engagements, but largely the recipient or the hub, Arches, is going to be conducting the engagement in your communities. Next slide. Just to give a quick update on the current status of the California Hydrogen Hub, phase one has now been awarded, so the hub will begin to carry out the agreed upon phase one activities over the next 12 to 18 months. These specifically include planning, design, community, and labor engagement activities. So we know there's a hunger for increased engagement, and this is really the start line for those to begin happening in earnest. Each technology provider will be responsible for the planning and development of their respective facilities, while all hub collaborators will contribute to community benefit activities. So there's both sort of individual project and overarching hub responsibility for the implementation of these. Negotiations over the phase two award will consider the status and quality of implementation during phase one, including community benefit commitments, which will be updated to reflect key learnings and developments as community feedback is collected and incorporated over time. OSED's funding actions are subject to compliance with the National Environmental Policy Act, or NEPA, and other requirements, including the National Historic Preservation Act and Endangered Species Act. As you can see from the materials a few weeks ago, these projects are still very early on in the planning phase, and we need your input to help shape the hub and community benefit commitments for these projects, and now is really the time. Next slide. So before we hear from Arches, I want to make sure that you know what our next engagement touch points will be, as well as how to get in touch with us going forward. Next slide. So this is the path of engagement from when a project applies to OSED for funding to when it is awarded and moves through the different project management phases. And at a high level, again, I want to emphasize that these projects are not baked cakes. We're at the very beginning of a long process, and these hubs will take many years to come to fruition, and we'll have to pass through several stages before any construction activities can start. We can't give specific timelines yet. You know, these are all still estimates, because we expect things will continue to shift significantly during, you know, phase one planning and phase two negotiations. We've listed concrete ways that you can get involved here, including reaching out to the hub or DOE directly, attending virtual briefings, Let us know via email if you'd like to receive additional information about future local engagements that will be planned and announced in the near future. Engagement will be ongoing throughout all of these phases, and one of DOE's oversight roles is to ensure that meaningful ongoing engagement continues regularly in each phase. In between each phase, DOE will assess the project's progress, including the quality of community benefit implementation, and will make a decision about whether the project should receive additional funding based on those assessments. And finally, in addition to these mechanisms, all hubs again are subject to NEPA, which includes robust public participation processes, and we expect NEPA to occur during phases 1 and 2 primarily, so ahead of construction. Next slide. Thank you. These briefings are just an early step in broadening engagement between DOE, the selectees, and communities impacted by these projects. We hope now that these initial materials out, folks have a better sense of proximity and possibility with these projects. Information and details on all of the hub-specific briefings are on our website. The California Hub briefing, this is our very first community briefing for a hub that's made it to Phase 1 award. Following today, we've got a couple more briefings on the calendar for Pacific Northwest and Arch 2. Pacific Northwest is later this week on Thursday, and Arch 2 is next Friday, August 16th at noon. Next slide. All of the hubs have established websites to provide more information on their initial proposed plans. So here, of course, is the Arches site. And we'll drop the link in the chat. Highly recommend checking out the site. It's getting updated regularly and has a whole lot of critical information. These next 2 slides showcase just some of the resources DOE has to offer to support the hubs. To find out more about this program related initiatives, please visit the OSED website. We're also updating constantly. There's all kinds of cool new information. In fact, I think we just uploaded a map today of all OSED projects. It's really cool. Check it out. We'll also drop links in the chat. Please do check out all those materials and resources to stay up to date. And with that, I'm going to hand it back to Emmanuel and the Arches team to delve deeper into some of the details of the hub and projects within. Thanks so much, y'all.
Thank you. I want to say thanks to Dale and to Susie for your remarks and helping to provide this overview. So next we're going to be talking a bit more about the Arches project in particular. So first of all, I want to say congratulations to the California Hydrogen Hub for reaching this Phase 1 award milestone. We all look forward to continuing to engage with you over the next 12 to 18 months as the hub carries out its planning, its analysis, and its design activities, in addition to all of the stakeholder engagement and community work across the state of California. So we know this is just the beginning of a much longer process. The OSED award for Phase 1 is $30 million. As I understand, that's matched by a private investment that totals $186 million for this Phase 1 award. The total OSED federal cost share does have the ability over the life of the project to increase up to $1.2 billion out of a total estimated project value of $12.6 billion. Subject to this phased management approach that was previously described. So lots of potential for economic activity in the future. And we know that this is a time for continued engagement with community members to help to shape the project. And so we want to use this time now to familiarize folks with the California Hydrogen Hub and ways that they can get involved and engage in activities during Phase 1. So let's get started by talking about the proposed project plan at a high level. And Angelina, great to have you with us. I'm wondering if you can just tell us a bit more about who is behind the Arches vision.
Thank you, Emmanuel, and thank you, everybody. We're always excited to join OSED and talk about Arches, how Arches was formed, the vision, and of course, with a focus on community benefits, which is one of our favorite topics. We're very excited to be partnering on this first-of-a-kind, unprecedented program and to move forward finally together into Phase 1 and start executing on the project plan. So we're excited to continue working with OSED, and the Alliance for Renewable Clean Hydrogen Energy System, known as Arches, is a public-private partnership to create a sustainable statewide clean hydrogen hub in California and beyond. Arches will utilize local renewable resources to produce hydrogen with the objective to fully decarbonize the regional economy while prioritizing environmental justice, equity, economic leadership, and workforce development. The state of California, under the leadership of GoBiz, and alongside the participation of other major state agencies, the legislature, local governments, and the state's institutions of higher education, including the UCs, which are the leading educational and academic institutions on a global level, alongside two of its affiliated national laboratories, provide the vision, leadership, oversight, accountability, and matching funds, along with our industry partners. The industry partners also bring deep technical expertise and capability for building a hydrogen network in California, and a significant in-kind matching capacity, as was pointed out. We match the DOE funding pretty much 1 to 10. Local governments, environmental justice advocates, nonprofits, and organized labor bring a strong focus of community engagement, public health focus, environmental protection, workforce development, and other issues of critical importance to Arches and our commitment to transparency and inclusion. Overall, we have over 400 groups from industry, labor, government, and communities, which are part of the Arches network and are engaged deeply with us in forming the future vision for this hub. So we have a wide array of participants that contribute to the vision that includes California, and in terms of production and offtake and transportation of hydrogen on a statewide basis, and also with a focus on how we work with the other hubs, as Dale pointed out, to create a regional and national hub network.
Great, thank you, Angelina. I appreciate that response and detailing participation from a vast number of different stakeholders and perspectives. Can you talk a bit about the hub in terms of its vision related to technology deployment?
Well, we are a vision. We're creating an ecosystem and a marketplace in California, and we wanted to have the technologies that will enable that sustainable ecosystem and marketplace development on a very planned and coordinated fashion. So the Hydrogen Hub for California is a network of clean hydrogen production sites that incorporate multiple facilities with the ultimate goal of decarbonizing public transportation, heavy-duty trucking, port operations, and reducing 2 million metric tons a year, or roughly the equivalent to an annual 450,000 gasoline-powered cars being taken off the road. We're also focused on expanding the hydrogen fuel cell vehicles in heavy-duty transportation, and that will not only give improvement in air quality by reducing emissions in high pollution interstate transportation corridors, but also to facilitate greater connectivity and expansion of a clean West Coast freight network that links the Pacific Northwest Hydrogen Hub, as we said, linking the hubs together. And we're also in conversation with Houston in creating a Houston-Los Angeles hydrogen pathway for transportation as well. The hydrogen produced by California's Hydrogen Hub aims to power the 3 large ports with 200 plus pieces of cargo handling equipment, and that's Long Beach, Los Angeles, and Oakland. We also aim to have 5,000 fuel cell electric trucks, over 1,000 fuel cell electric buses. We're focused on launching 1 marine vessel, and we also have turbines for stationary fuel cell operation for distributed generation. The hub also plans to develop associated infrastructure for hydrogen transport and use, including liquefaction, 60 heavy-duty fueling stations, and approximately 165 miles of open access pipelines as well. So it's a coordinated network of hydrogen production, hydrogen transportation, and hydrogen end use. And we're coordinating production and end use so that we will have matching real-time availability of hydrogen for all the end use needs by the end of this hub, and massively reduce the price of hydrogen as well.
Fantastic. No, appreciate that that thorough overview. You mentioned three ports. You mentioned 60 different fueling stations, 165 miles of pipeline. Um, Folks have been very interested in better understanding the locations associated with the projects of the hub and the infrastructure that's intended to be developed. Can you talk a little bit about where you expect all of these different projects to be located?
We do expect the projects to be statewide and spanning the state in terms of offtake and production, with major offtake centers in Southern and Northern California. As was pointed out by both Susie and Dale, this is the beginning of the planning process. So sometimes folks think that we're further ahead than we actually are. We are planning, and some of the sites are not finalized yet. But as soon as they're finalized, we'll be sharing the sites, we'll be sharing the fence line project parameters, and we want to engage with communities, especially surrounding those projects, to make sure that they have access to project information as well as opportunities to engage. So in terms of production, we envision more than 10 sites throughout California, with most of them in the Central Valley, enabling the production of hundreds of metric tons per day of clean hydrogen. The majority of this clean hydrogen will be produced with renewable electricity, and some will be produced from biogenic sources. The production of clean hydrogen with renewable energy into the Arches hydrogen marketplace aims to enable various end uses and applications, such as heavy-duty transportation, that currently contribute to significant statewide emissions. We all know that 40% of air quality emissions are due to the transportation sector in California, especially to heavy-duty diesel-operated technologies, and that is our major focus. In terms of power, the power project planned to generate clean power at two major power plants, with two major power producers in the state of California, which happen to be public entities. The stationary distributed locations will also be throughout the state with smaller fuel cell technologies. The larger scale projects are focused on two areas. One is the Los Angeles Scattergood plant owned by the Los Angeles Department of Water and Power, and the Lodi Energy Center in Northern California, which is owned and operated by NCPA or the Northern California Power Authority, as I said, both public agencies. The projects would initially have hydrogen at increased percentages blend with natural gas at the site, not in the pipelines, but at the site where the turbines are. And both projects have committed to being able to operate on 100% hydrogen when that hydrogen is available. So we're very proud because Arches as a hub has been able to do a technology pull in terms of the availability of 100% capable turbines way ahead of the initial schedules that the original equipment manufacturers had predicted. In terms of transportation, the project would consist of more than 60 hydrogen fueling stations that would serve more than 5,000 Class 6 and 8 trucks, which are the heavy-duty trucks responsible for most of the pollution on our transportation corridors, and 1,000 fuel cell electric buses. The hub has developed partnerships with more than 13 transit agencies, and there are too many to list. I'll just name a few: AC Transit, Foothill Transit, Fresno Transit, North County Transit, Orange County, Riverside Transit, Santa Cruz Transit, San Joaquin Transit, Sunline, and many more are also joining this long list of transit agencies. We plan to roll out sites across the state in conjunction with fleets and clean hydrogen production. As I said, we batch production and offtake over time. The elimination of diesel fuel trucks drives the majority of California's hydrogen hub health benefits, especially in key corridors from ports to inland warehouses. In terms of the ports, as I mentioned, the three ports that we are focused on: Long Beach, Los Angeles, and Oakland. They are key end-use facilities, and they seek to replace existing diesel-powered cargo handling equipment with hydrogen fuel cell equivalents at marine terminals in the ports of Long Beach and associated fueling infrastructure throughout. Specific marine terminals at this stage in each port where hydrogen fuel cell cargo handling equipment would be deployed have not been determined, and we will keep you posted on when that starts to happen. The Phoenix terminal in Los Angeles already operates several large-scale cargo handling equipment with hydrogen, and they have good experience with that and plan to expand it. The deployment of hydrogen fuel cell electric cargo handling equipment and drayage trucks contribute to improving air quality for surrounding communities by reducing nitrogen oxides and diesel particulates, as well as toxins and other emissions at the ports, which have a significant impact on communities that live around the ports. We actually also have a really exciting project that I wanted to mention very quickly, which is the Scripps Marine Vessel. This is the first of its kind hydrogen-powered marine research vessel, and it would operate cleanly and quietly, enabling better research and in underwater areas because there would be no sounds and researchers would be able to gather better data. The research vessel would use liquid hydrogen, an existing technology to replace diesel fuel, and converting much of its emissions to be fossil-free and avoiding climate-causing emissions such as CO2 as well. Based at the Scripps Institute of Oceanography in San Diego and Point Loma Harbor, the project aims to showcase a path forward for smaller water and harbor craft, which typically have large emissions and cause a lot of harmful air quality impact in our ocean and in our ocean communities. So that's the focus and overview of most of the projects that we have right now. And of course, as we finalize the sites, locations, parameters, and output of the projects, we'll be working with communities on the ground to engage in terms of what the environmental impacts and benefits are, but of course also in terms of economic development, in terms of small businesses participating, in terms of jobs in traditionally non-represented communities, and making sure that we have access to high quality family sustaining careers. So very excited to be working on this project and very excited to partner with OSED and DOE. And the communities in California.
Absolutely, absolutely. So you mentioned some of the proposed benefits of the project in terms of reducing diesel emissions and related particulate and NOx and air quality benefits and health impacts. I know that OSED tends to sort of qualify its community benefits in 4 different categories. I believe the first is community and labor engagement, investing in America's workforce, Justice 40, and diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility. So I'd like to spend a little bit more time talking through the community benefits, and in particular, I'd like to address Arch's plan for community benefits in each of those 4 different categories. Before we jump into that, I do just want to give a quick reminder that from OSED's perspective, these community benefits commitments are a very significant part of its project management oversight process. So this is key to determining whether or not a hub actually continues to progress through the different phases of federal funding. I also want to note too that the intention is to update these community benefits commitments at the end of each phase to reflect all of the learnings, developments, and interactions with members of the community and different organizations, incorporate all of that feedback, and then make updates to those commitments as well. The goal is to make sure that these commitments ensure that the project has a positive impact on the local community and on the hub. We know that Arches has developed a strong set of commitments as well. So we really do want to work through each of them. Can we start at this point just with community engagement? Can you talk about the hub's commitments related to community engagement? And there have been some questions about engagements that have been held to date as well. So if you can touch on that, that'd be helpful.
Okay.
I'm happy to hand this off to our Community Benefits Engagement Officer, Joy Langford. Take it away, Joy.
Thank you, Angelina and OSED team. Again, we share OSED's commitment to the principles that you guys just laid out. And I'd like to add that our whole community benefits pathway is publicly available on the Arches website. Our website is updated almost daily. So please check in with our website to make sure that you get the latest information. This includes initial metrics that we have outlined to measure progress on our community benefits commitments. In terms of community engagement, during phase 1, Arches will engage preliminarily with a preliminary list of stakeholders identified through the community benefits pathway that is also on our website. Go under community engagement, click down on community benefits pathway, you'll find our complete pathway plan. This list will be designed to incorporate full representation input from stakeholders, tribal entities, and community stakeholders and partners, such as local community members, environmental justice groups, advocacy organizations, and local elected officials. Can we go to the next slide? Actually, I think we're still on that slide. Apologies. Our community advisory mechanisms are the foundation for two-way engagement between the community members of the hub and will inform the evolution of the community benefits commitments and strategies. At the hub level, the Community Benefits Working Group will provide information that is critical to enabling input on and understanding of impacts and benefits. This will include, at a very minimal, proposed site locations as they are determined. We will let you know when the sites are determined, and you will be amongst the first of people to know. Stay tuned on our website. We get a lot of questions about that. We'll also be talking about potential environmental and health impacts, including criteria, pollutant emissions, plan mitigation measures, and other information necessary to understand the hub and project level impacts and benefits. This is a public group with no non-disclosure agreement necessary. Again, for the community benefits group that we have every other Thursday, plus these meetings that will be put on periodically with OSED, there is no NDA required to get any of the information that is community related. The group will provide, the community benefits group will provide and does provide direct feedback to the Arches Community Benefits Officer and Arches leadership on issues around community benefits. Information about meetings and materials can be found on the Arches website. Again, the useful tool, which will be updated to reflect phase 1 commitments and project informations together with clarity on working group structures and transparency. Now, we will put in place, but we do not have it in place yet, a community benefits auditing team. The community benefits auditing team is a group of third-party experts who will serve as an accountability mechanism for the hub in each community, excuse me. This group will be charged with tracking and public dissemination of community benefits activities across the hub through the community benefits scorecard approach outlined in the initial community benefits pathway that's on the website, and will be composed of experts in various community benefits issues. The CBAT, Community Benefits Auditing Team, again, will report to the executive team and the board on their findings. At the project level, Arches will implement local community working groups and put in place community elected community liaisons to ensure transparency and the opportunity for open community input and a two-way engagement. Local community working groups will be provided with information critical to understanding project impacts and benefits without an NDA, including information on public, local community working groups that we will provide information for in the near future. Finally, Arches plans to negotiate community benefits agreements or community benefits plans to the project level through local community engagement in cases where the communities desire such agreements. These negotiations will begin after the selection of project sites and will not require an NDA to participate. Does that answer your question, Emmanuel?
I believe so. I think you've provided a significant amount of context and detail. Appreciate that. And I know that there are more questions regarding engagement that we'll address in the Q&A session. For now, there are some questions that came up around labor engagement and investment in the workforce. So I'd say let's tackle that next. In particular, folks are also interested in knowing when workforce development is going to begin, and if there are any indications of who the hub might be partnering with. So if you could help to address those as well, we'd appreciate it.
Okay, so for Arches, we anticipate this hub will create more than 220,000 new quality jobs, as we've been toting all along, while establishing strong workforce development activities and employment that fosters workplace DEIA. To foster this type of growth, we are going to we're making robust workforce commitments, including public commitment to negotiate project labor agreements for all construction projects. This is huge. Projects do not go on without a project labor agreement in place. We already have one in place with labor, but all projects will be under a PLA. These PLAs will set consistent hub-wide targets with unified language, differentiated only by project partner name and localizations of specific projects. Details such as local union chapters and county-specific prevailing wages. During phase 1, the hub will work with projects to estimate workforce needs and redefine training activities to support those needs. PLAs will also include stipulations to ensure equitable access across employment for local workers and define the percentage of hours to be worked by apprentices and by union labor. We are also committed to pursuing ongoing labor engagement with stakeholders such as labor unions, representing workers in the energy sector, including those in hydrogen production, transportation, and related industries, workforce development organization, and apprenticeship programs and training providers. Finally, we aim to ensure that training programs, careers development support, and high road career opportunities are available for those in California's disadvantaged communities. I will also note that designation of Arches under the Department of Labor Mega Projects Program, which fosters equal opportunity in the construction trade workforce of federal contractors and subcontractors on large federal construction projects. Through the program, the department focuses on resources on construction projects that are of the greatest potential to make a positive economic difference in the community that they are in, providing immediate impact on contractor and subcontractor recruitment, and hiring practices in the construction trades, and helping build robust applicant pools that include everything from talented workers from underrepresented backgrounds.
Fantastic. And let's dive a little bit more into that in particular. I'd like to talk just about some of the Justice 40 aspects of the project. And again, as a reminder to folks, so this is based on the Biden administration's Executive Order 14008. It established a goal that 40% of the overall benefits of certain investments, like the hydrogen hubs, flow to disadvantaged communities that are marginalized by underinvestment and overburdened by pollution as well. So you started to touch on some of the activities related to disadvantaged communities, to minorities, to contracting, things like that. And I'm wondering if you can just speak in particular about how the Arches hub plans to meet these the J40 goal overall.
Yeah, Arches is completely committed and stands by Justice 40 in all that we do, especially since this is a DOE project that is related to Justice 40. Arches commits to robust evaluation and elimination or mitigation of all potential community impacts from hydrogen production, transport, storage, and utilization, project benefits will include deep decarbonization and localized pollution reductions. These activities will be conducted in close coordination with impacted communities to ensure that currently overburdened communities are not further burdened and will directly benefit from the hub-related projects. During phase 1, Arches will update its Justice 40 assessment and initial implementation strategy, which sets the stage for more detailed local assessment, maximization of positive impacts, and minimalization of negative impacts in later phases per each project. Arches phase 1 plan for identifying, assessing, and mitigating project benefits and burdens for workers and communities involved developing a systematic approach based on its Justice 40 assessment with flexibility to include broader consideration of local priorities such as water pollution, human health, energy, prices, and similar aspects. In addition, one last note, in addition to continuing to use the Justice 40 framework for projected planning and implementation, the hub will also partner with local and minority businesses, minority serving institutions, and organizations targeting workers facing employment barriers to ensure economic benefits and quality jobs are available to underserved people.
All right, appreciate that overview. You touched on a number of the commitments and the intentions related to the hub, and definitely appreciate that. One thing I've seen come up in some of the questions so far, and folks are curious about, is tribal engagement. So we know this is a cross-cutting element of Arch's community benefits commitments more generally. What can you share about Arch's plan to engage with tribes?
Well, Arch's tribal engagement plan includes provisions for pursuing agreements that respect tribal sovereignty and address the impacts of hydrogen projects on tribal lands. Key anticipated milestones for tribal agreements include meetings and consultations with tribal leaders and representatives, which we've already started in the initial stages of, discussions on project-related impacts and benefits, development of agreements that address tribal concerns and objectives. Again, the hub has already begun to develop such partnerships, and I think our hub is above the curve with this, such as one of the tribal partnerships that we've already created is with Rincon Band of Louisiano Indians. The hub plans to use hydrogen to provide backup power to community well pumps to ensure clean drinking water during power outages. Rincon's chairman, Bo Mazzetti, who also serves as the president of the San Luis Rey Indian Water Authority, and he is also the chair of the California Tribal Association here in the state of California, also proudly serves as president, serves as one of the voting representatives on the Arches board. So since day one, we've had tribal involvement. We're going to be staffing up to have more tribal people that are on our staff and in our working groups. So we are committed to that, Emmanuel.
Okay, well, it's great to see that engagement is already taking place. I also think it's interesting to note, you mentioned the backup power for pumping, and folks have been asking about whether or not there are other applications outside of just the transportation sector. So I think that was interesting to hear as well. So I appreciate that. The final sort of aspect of community benefits commitments from these OSED categories is related to DEIA. And so curious about what Arches is doing to ensure that the California Hydrogen Hub advances on the DEIA principles.
I'm going to shoot that one back over to Angelina, since she is the founder of this amazing endeavor that we're doing. And from start, she's mandated that myself and the rest of our chiefs follow through with the whole DEI component. So I think it's really important that you hear some last words from the person who's actually put this whole entire ecosystem into play. Angelina, if you would talk a little bit about your ideas regarding this.
Yeah, thank you so much, Joy, and thank you, Emmanuel, and really great to see the overview and commitment that Arches has to inclusion, to transparency, to making sure that we're working with communities that are in fence line to the projects. And I saw some questions in the chat too with respect to opportunities to engage with the projects. We certainly want minority-owned businesses to be able to have access to contracts and to engagement with projects. We're working on education and training and making sure that kids starting with high school, going to community colleges, state schools, all the way to the UCs and the training institutes that our labor unions run have access to these jobs. And those are kids that are also extended to opportunities for the little bit older kids, whether they're the helmets to hard hats for veterans, whether it's for previously incarcerated folks, or whether it's women in non-traditional roles. And I saw that we have a new organization of women in energy here participating in this chat. We'd love to have you join our working groups. We'd love to have you join the community benefits bi-weekly working group. And we'll post information on how to get engaged as well. But going back specifically to DEIA, this will be a key component of our workforce development and employment efforts. We believe in DEIA, we believe that it's important, and we want to make sure that we cast a wide net and that we have diversity, equity, inclusion, and participation in all of our initiatives. I will take this opportunity to mention that we will also be establishing a public data reporting platform to enhance transparency and accessibility, which will later in phases include metrics specifically related to DEIA and outreach to communities and all other areas that we've discussed here. However, initially, the platform will provide information about the projects, including status, location, update, information about community benefits auditing team and their activities, information about the shaping of the community benefits plans and what the communities prefer and how to get engaged, and mechanisms to participate in events and other outreach efforts that Arches will be implementing statewide surrounding the projects. And as I mentioned, if we can go to the next slide to showcase how you can get engaged with Arches and participate in the many initiatives that we have. Our website allows for you to sign up to participate in our working groups. We also have posted the community benefits pathway plans. That is a detailed plan on how we'll be working to engage with communities and build out the community benefits agreements for each individual project. Publications including handouts and especially frequently asked questions and debunking common myths and facts, especially making sure that we have facts that are debunking the myths. The Arches ecosystem membership and opportunities to join. We also have a robust social media participation. Follow us on social media as well. And email us if you want to join the community engagement groups or have any suggestions at community.engagement@arches.org. Join our bi-weekly hub-level community benefits working group and many other local working groups that will be rolling out during phase 1, and especially when we start construction in phase 2, 3, and 4 of this hub. So it's been a wonderful pleasure to be here. We're really excited and happy to join you and look forward to engaging, answering questions, and making sure that Arches continues to be the hub that we've always promised that it would be, creating the sustainable Arches hydrogen ecosystem for California and beyond.
All right, I want to say thank you both just for this overview and working through some of those details of different aspects of the project. We're going to go into our Q&A at this point in time. And so hopefully some questions have been addressed, but we're going to try to address as many as we can during the time that we have here. So thank you so much again for just sharing information related to the project. We know that there's more information that can be found on some of the fact sheets on OSED's website, as well as the Arches website as well. But we definitely want to try to address the questions and concerns that have been brought up by community members who are present today. So I'd invite all of the prior speakers to come back on camera You can leave your camera on during the session, but we'll try to just have only one person unmuted at a time. That tends to work best for our translation team that's offering critical services to the communities that are engaged. And just a few quick ground rules before we jump in. So as many of you have found, the Q&A module is the place to submit your questions. I know folks on the OSED team are working to answer some of the questions that can be answered as well. We do just ask people to be respectful, and I see that reflected in the language that's being used. I definitely appreciate that. If you asked multiple questions, please try to break them up. We'll do so as well. We'll try to just address one at a time. That helps us to track whether or not we've done a good job of answering your questions. And it's okay to build on the ideas of others. Clarifying questions are okay, and we'll try to address as much as we can during the time that we have. But we recognize, again, we're limited in time, so we'll do the best that we can. All right, so let's go ahead and jump in. And also, please feel free to keep the questions going even as we engage in our conversation here. All right, so there are, lots of questions that came in. So I want to just say, first of all, thanks for everyone who's tuning in, just for the quality of your engagement and all of the great questions that you are asking. There have been, I'm going to try to address as many of the questions as I can by sort of condensing and, asking some of them in a more conjoined way. So I apologize if some of the language does change. I don't mean to misrepresent anyone's question, but we want to try to answer as many as we can. There are a number of questions that were focused on hydrogen prices and the way that they evolve over time. And one of the stated goals of the hydrogen hubs in general, and in this project in particular, were related to low-cost hydrogen. So there were a number of questions that were related to the time frame over which it would be expected that the Arches hub would have an impact on hydrogen prices. Folks were interested in better understanding what sort of unsubsidized hydrogen prices were being anticipated in transportation, and whether or not over time we would see impacts on the prices, basically prices going down as the demand increases from activities related to the hub. Hopefully that's a good summary of some of the questions. But can you speak a bit just about any anticipated impacts on prices over time, and when folks can start to see those impacts being realized?
I can take this, and then if OSED wants to jump in the overall objective for the hydrogen shot program as well. The stated objective of the hubs was to try and get to $2 per kilogram of hydrogen produced. And that is a mighty goal in the time frame of the hub, which is starting now to 2032. We know with our experience and leadership in California with renewable energy programs that as you scale a technology, as you scale deployment and you increase production, that prices dramatically do drop down. We've seen that happen with solar, where solar is now at 97% below the price it was 15 years ago. Batteries and wind energy as well, dramatic reduction in prices. We expect to see a similar trend in hydrogen with the scale of production, and which is why we believe that the hydrogen ecosystem will be so valuable, because we're demonstrating that there's a huge need for hydrogen in California, not just the areas that we're focused on in terms of transportation, in terms of ports, and in terms of power, but also, as was well pointed out in the questions, in terms of needs for agriculture, in terms of needs for industry, in terms of needs for aviation and hydrogen derivatives, and shipping as well. So we want to focus on developing all of these areas and showcasing that, yes, there's a huge need for hydrogen as a fuel, that we can scale production of that fuel in a clean and sustainable manner, that we can match offtake and production with credit-worthy producers as well as credit-worthy off-takers, and ensure that we reach those goals that OSED has laid out for us in making sure that hydrogen is the lowest cost fuel and certainly cost competitive with diesel as fast as possible. And there are other programs the DOE and OSED are actually rolling out in terms of making sure that the hubs work together to increase demand and reduce demand, the price for hydrogen. And so we'll be working with those programs as well to build a system of incentives, not subsidies. Incentives come and then over time they go away as prices are reduced, and we've been very successful at doing that. subsidies last forever. We don't want that with hydrogen. We want a strategic system of incentives over a very fast critical time, which is between now and 2032, to achieve the end goals of low-cost hydrogen that is a clean fuel and a clean molecule available to complement the clean kilowatt hours in our energy system as well.
And so just a quick follow-up. So will Arches have any particular, say, goals related to price over time, or any measurement sort of confirmation of impacts on pricing over time?
We do. We have a detailed system analysis in terms of what we expect those price reductions to be compared to the scale of production and implementation and installation of technologies. And so we have made commitments to Ørsted in terms of pricing, and we hope and actually firmly believe we'll be able to achieve those once we get the projects underway.
Okay, fantastic. So I want to talk a bit about potential impacts just related to health. So Arches has spoken a lot about reductions in emissions associated with diesel displacement. Some folks have noted potential NOx emissions associated with hydrogen combustion, and also the significant use of electricity for producing hydrogen, and potential emissions associated with the grid use. I know there was some talk earlier about a life cycle assessment for the project. Can you speak a bit about any of those two particular topics on the NOx emissions and grid emissions, and the overall impact related to the hub?
Certainly, and we do have an overall ecosystem analysis in terms of what the benefits are going to be of the projects that we have outlined as a commitment to DOE. As you can see behind me, that's our Andy Warhol type of painting that we're very proud of, that basically focuses what our conversation is all about in terms of air pollution, in terms of low income, in terms of where the hydrogen hub projects will be located, and the benefits that we expect the communities to be able to see very, very fast. So with transportation, of course, and taking diesel off the road, those emission reductions are impactful and they're almost immediate. So very, very strong focus on getting diesel off the road as fast as possible. The power project for peaking power plants that right now do not have technologies other than hydrogen combustion available to them to utilize 100% hydrogen. We're hoping that with sending a market signal in terms of what power requirements are, and in terms of the need for larger scale cleaner fuel cells for power plants, that will also be a market pull for later on to have larger scale fuel cells that are available for centralized power plants, not just for distributed energy generation systems. In terms of hydrogen production, and in terms of the NOx, yes, there will be some NOx with regards to combustion. There always is, whatever you're combusting. But in comparison to what you would have, whether it's the state-of-the-art gas plant, which is your other alternative if you don't utilize hydrogen, the hydrogen turbines will be emitting less NOx than a state-of-the-art gas turbine, and they will also be eliminating all of the other pollutants such as CO2, such as PM2.5 and PM10, which cause asthma, such as all the toxins and carcinogens that we have in our air. So there'll be a dramatic improvement in terms of all air quality emissions that we see now from gas power plants, and NOx will be at a level below of state-of-the-art gas turbine as well. So that is a commitment that we have made to those communities, and hoping to move to fuel cell options in the near future as well. With regards to the grid and utilizing hydrogen, utilizing the grid to make hydrogen, we utilize the grid to power everything. We utilize the grid to power our battery electric vehicles. We utilize the grid to power our stationary batteries as well. We have over 8,000 megawatts of stationary batteries on the grid right now in California, which are charged with excess renewable energy that we have during the day, as well as at nighttime, and deployed during peak hours to reduce the need for standby gas generation at the end of the day. Certainly, hydrogen will fit into that scheme and be able to be produced with the renewable energy that we bring into the system. California has committed to 100% renewable energy grid and zero carbon by 2045. The objective for electrolytic hydrogen is to accelerate that transition make it easier, make it more cost effective, and optimize it. We certainly, even though we have an abundance of renewable energy and oftentimes are at 100% and above 100% renewable energy on the grid, and I'm the founder of Renewables 100 Policy Institute, so super proud that we've achieved that goal. Let's take that 100% renewable energy, especially when we are curtailing renewables, and we are going to be curtailing more and more renewables as we decarbonize our grid into the future to get to carbon neutral. Let's harness that to charge batteries, to desalinate, to make sure that we have hydrogen, that we have technologies that are able to transition all of our economy and all sectors to carbon free. And I'm speaking mostly for aviation, for shipping, for heavy duty transportation, for agriculture, that we currently don't have direct electrification pathways for. So hydrogen is an important carbon-free molecule that we need to dispatch into making sure that we're decarbonizing our overall energy system. And it's the most cost-effective, secure, reliable, and resilient way to do it, because having a homegrown fuel based on renewable energy that is essentially capturing sunshine in a bottle is the best way for us to move forward. And I have yet to see a better alternative.
Okay, so we have many more questions to work through, not a lot of time. So we're gonna try to keep this maybe a bit rapid fire, right, as we move forward. So our next question, we've talked a bit about benefits to different communities related to equity and other aspects. We talk a bit about how it is those are being baselined and the type of specific metrics that are being used to measure those benefits in various communities.
Joy, I'll let you take that.
Currently, yeah, I was just trying to unmute my thing. We are currently, why did I go on? Sorry about that. We are currently working with our project management firm to put metrics into place. Currently, I have 3 people from my project management team working with me on how we will do mapping studies, how we will incorporate labor and labor training into that. Everything from air quality in those particular areas on. There's going to be rubrics and metrics all the way down from the community benefits level to on high with our community benefits auditing team and how it's reported back to our CEO. She has mandated that she wants to be apprised of each project that we're doing and how we are meeting those metrics. So it will all come back into forms and statements that we can use to quantifiably give you the information that's necessary for you to understand the dramatic differences that these projects are going to be making in a positive way in the communities. So that is actively being worked on.
Okay, and is that, can we talk about how that information is made available? Is it through the website, or these things that are going to be reviewed in bi-weekly meetings?
Yes, it will be made available through the website as well as at local levels where projects are going in. There'll probably be an even more detailed analysis, but yes, we do plan on putting that on the website.
Okay. Any particular time frame associated with that folks can sort of look forward to that information being available?
So when each project is announced, as we spoke about earlier, when they are officially announced, we will go into the metrics portion of it, and then we'll be able to figure out what the exact metric is for that particular project. That information will be posted on the website as well as at the community level.
Okay, so there has been some discussion about sort of the specific projects, them being announced, more information being available. Sort of in preparation for that, is there a general project labor agreement sort of framework or overview that folks can begin to review now so that they can better understand those requirements, or even, I would say, even related to some of the metrics that you're describing? Is there anything sort of more general that folks have the ability to preview now so that they can be more prepared as those project announcements come out later?
Again, they can review our community benefits pathways. It shows how we plan on tackling each event, but we don't have any metric or rubric in place at this particular time.
Okay, okay.
I'd like to just point out that we'll also be hiring a labor engagement officer in the very near future as part of Arches, and we certainly will have access to such information and making sure that we launch a workforce development working group as well, where such documents and accelerated planning will be available to people who are interested. And certainly any framework, PLA, or requirements or bullet points will be posted on the website under the rubric of workforce development as well. So we'll certainly do that.
And I'd like to point out, it's very important that people really see the work that Angelina has put together as far as our board is concerned. Chris Hannon is indeed, and he's head of labor for the state of California. He's one of our board members. So these aren't just people that Angelina has put together. She has put together a force, even at the board level, to make sure that project labor agreements are in place, that we are tackling this with the best metrics that there are for each particular task, whether it's workforce development, whether it's clean air with Dr. Burke, whether it is tribal leads with Bo Mazzetti, who is the chairman of the tribes, as well as the UC system and, the governor's office. So she has really handpicked the people who are going to be helping to lead this organization. I know I don't know all the answers myself. Angelina is a lot smarter than me in her strategy, but I did want to point that out. As far as labor is concerned, the head honcho of labor is actually on our board to make sure that we're disseminating workforce benefits correctly as well.
Okay, fantastic. Just one more clarification regarding labor. The labor agreements that you're discussing, will that then keep sort of non-union contractors from being able to participate in these projects, or is there a distinction that needs to be respected in that regard?
I think if the compliance is there with the requirements of the PLA, certainly you have the National Electrical Association, Contractors Association, and there are many contractors associations which are both union and non-union who work together. So we'll certainly have pathways for non-union participation as well, but the projects will require a PLA.
Okay, great, appreciate that. It was a clarifying question, and this may be suited for the OSED team as well. But folks mentioned that the FOA stated that up to 20 million was available for phase one. And I believe it was stated that this phase one was funded at 30 million. So is there any clarification that could be offered just regarding funding limits and the funding for this particular project?
Yeah, I can take that one. So upon review with several of the hydrogen hubs and working with our program manager, as well as OSED leadership, it was determined that it was appropriate to shift some additional funding to phase one from the later phases. So it is still an overall, for Arches, $1.2 billion, prospective total award, but with an additional 10 million shifted to phase one.
Appreciate that. And then maybe
Sure.
just one other clarification as well is just, and I believe this is the case, but there was a question about whether or not any funding has already been dispersed. And I believe the answer is no, that the projects have just been sort of gone under contract, but could you clarify as well?
That is correct, Emmanuel. The projects have just been awarded. Over time, we will have invoices coming in as the project start to actually spend some money, but to this point in time, no funding has gone out the door.
Okay, fantastic. All right.
Sure.
I'm going to ask the webinar managers here to just tell me when to stop, because I will just keep on going here.
Yeah. Thanks, Emmanuel. I think we should probably pause. We are 20 minutes over, which is thank you all for sticking with us. There's still almost 200 people on the call, so thank you all, and apologies for the length of this webinar. There's just a lot of interest and a lot to share, so that's a good lesson learned for us. And although that's all the time we have for questions today, I just want to thank you all again for your interest and participation in today's session. And special thanks to the Hub for being here with us. And for more information on the Hub and additional questions or comments, please go back through the chat. There are a ton of resources. This deck with all of these great links is going to be posted. This session is going to be recorded and posted. Keep an eye out on the Hub webpage for additional forums like this, on the ground meetings, things like that that are in the works. And you can expect to be hearing from us again in the near future. So thanks everybody so much. We're so grateful for your time, and hopefully this helped answer some questions. I know there are a lot more, so we'll keep the conversation going. All right. Thanks, Al.
Thank
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.